Today, we are diving into something pretty amazing from the world of online gaming. And no, it's not about slaying dragons or flying spaceships. It's about something way more complex. A virtual economy that's, well, on the verge of totally collapsing, and one player's absolutely radical plan to fix it.
See, you gotta understand in a game like Planet Calypso, a game that's been around for decades, this world is persistent. For literally thousands of players, it's a real place. And anytime you have people, you get commerce.
I mean, they build entire supply chains, they set prices, they run actual businesses. You've got players who hunt creatures for resources. Then they sell those to other players who craft weapons, who then, you guessed it, sell those weapons right back to the hunters. It's this complex, living, breathing system, and there's real money on the line. And that's the big question at the heart of our story today. What happens when a system that was once thriving starts showing some really serious cracks? It leads to players feeling like all their time, all their effort is just worthless. So, what exactly went wrong inside Planet Calypso? Well, according to one longtime player, the problem is deep. It's structural. It's a divide that has basically split the entire economy right down the middle. So here's how it all shakes out. On one side, you've got the producers. These are your hunters and your miners. They are the absolute backbone of the economy, spending hours and hours generating raw materials. And on the other side, you have these so-called gambler crafters. They're a group focused on this high-risk, high-reward crafting system that is almost completely walled off from everybody else. The producers are feeling like, hey, we're doing all the work here for basically no reward. And just like in a real economy, this kind of imbalance creates some very real and very nasty symptoms. There's a massive oversupply of common materials, so prices have just cratered. There's no demand, so profit margins have shrunk to pretty much nothing. And players are starting to ask themselves, why should I even bother logging in to hunt or mine? It's a classic death spiral for a player-driven economy. But here's where it gets really interesting. In the face of this whole crisis, one player, who goes by the name Rocket192 on the forums, he didn't just complain. No, he drafted a super detailed, multi-step proposal to fundamentally reshape the entire economic landscape. I mean, what a bold move for a player, right? Trying to rewrite the game's very rules. Yeah, for Rocket192, this isn't just some small game balance issue. He sees it as a full-blown crisis. He argues that the hunters and miners are basically paying for the gambler crafters' fun. They're bearing all the risk and all the cost. And in his mind, that entire dynamic, it has to be flipped on its head. Okay, so what's the actual plan? Well, he broke it down into 4 core pillars. First, create some scarcity. Slash the drop rates of all those common materials that are flooding the market. Second, give miners a new resource to find. Third, and this is the really crucial part, change what loot drops based on the quality of a player's weapon. And finally, the whole thing is designed to force those disconnected gambler crafters back into the main economy, making them actually buy materials from other players again. Now, to get this whole plan, you have to understand this one little term, DPP, which stands for damage per peck. Now, peck is the game's tiniest unit of currency, so just think of DPP as a weapon's ammo efficiency. How much bang you get for your buck. Right now, it's a pretty minor stat, but Rocket92's proposal, it turns DPP into the single most important thing for getting good loot. And this focus on DPP is the absolute heart of the proposal. We're not talking about a small tweak here. This is a complete paradigm shift. It's designed to reward players for actually investing in that high-end, specialized gear. Okay, check this out. This table really shows you the magic of the plan in action. Look at the numbers. Right now, your loot is like 80% low-value shrapnel. But under this new proposed system, a weapon with high DPP would totally flip that ratio. You'd get way less shrapnel and way more valuable materials. And not only that, it would literally double your chance of getting rare items. All of a sudden, your gear matters in a completely new way. So at the end of the day, what's the whole point? It's simple. By making these valuable materials rarer and then tying them to these high DPP weapons, the plan forces the gambler crafters, who absolutely need those materials for their high-stakes crafting, to pay a premium for them. The economic burden shifts from the producers to the high-end consumers. Now, as you can probably guess, a proposal this bold, well, it did not go unnoticed. The forum thread completely exploded, and it revealed this deep divide not just on the plan itself, but on the fundamental purpose of the game's economy and really who it's even for.
And the first big counter-argument came from a player named Afridi, who says they're a legitimate item crafter, not one of these gamblers. And their fear is pretty straightforward. Look, if material costs shoot through the roof just to attract gamblers, it's going to punish regular crafters like me who can't afford those prices. It'll just force us right out of the market.
And Afridi also points to a much deeper, more human problem: player behavior. They argue that even if the plan works and prices go up, the market is just a race to the bottom. Players are always going to undercut each other to sell their stuff faster, and the prices will just crash right back down, making this whole painful change totally pointless. But Rocket 1992 fires right back. He claims this whole race to the bottom thing is a pretty new problem, one that was directly caused by the very gambling system he's trying to fix. He argues that before this system ever existed, the economy was actually way healthier and that crafters did just fine. And then, just to make things more complicated, another player named The Mind chimes in with a totally different perspective. They argue that the gambling crafters already support the economy in a really important way by creating a price floor. They buy up all the unwanted junk loot that would otherwise be worthless, something that just didn't happen before their system came along. So, we're left with this really complex debate with no easy answers. It's basically a clash of philosophies about how a virtual world should even work, and maybe more importantly, whether its own citizens should have the power to fundamentally change its laws.
Let's just recap the core arguments here. On one side, you've got this bold plan to bring meaning back to professions like hunting and mining, creating a new goal for players to chase. But on the other, you have these very real fears about punishing other types of players and a deep skepticism that you can even change how people behave in the first place. It all boils down to a really fundamental question: should the core rules of a world ever be changed so drastically? But Rocket 192 makes one last very compelling point in his defense. He basically argues that this whole thing is a low-risk experiment because it only involves changing numbers, drop rates. If the whole thing turns out to be a total disaster, the developers can just flip a switch, put everything back the way it was, and there's no permanent damage done. And that leaves us with a fascinating question that goes so much further than just one game. In these intricate digital societies that we build and we live in, who holds the ultimate authority? Is it the original architects who coded the world into existence? Or is it the citizens who actually inhabit it, who understand its flaws, and who dare to imagine something better?